So it was 1 week ago since I was sitting at my laptop watching the FC Cologne game against Arsenal thinking, wow, what a season this is going to be. I was absolutely buzzing. Yesterday, with Van Persie confirmed to go to United, I'm fuming, and here are the 3 reasons why I am fuming. Number 1 is Arsene Wenger. Now, he is coming out with some of the most ridiculous statements and treating Arsenal fans like mugs. At the end of the day, you can't start saying, oh, we want to keep our best players. Van Persie scored 30 goals last season, he is one of our best players, and then 3 days after saying that, sell him. It all comes back to last season when we had the Nasri and Fabregas situation, and he was saying that you can't pretend to be an ambitious club and sell your top 2 players. And yet, not only did he do it last season and make himself look an idiot, he's done it again this season and made the same mistakes with the quotes. I don't understand why he's doing it. But other stuff that he's doing is really annoying me. After the confirmation that Man United had signed Van Persie, did he come and make a statement to Arsenal fans? No, he went on to French TV. So after the FC Cologne game, he says that Giroud and Podolski are there to work with Van Persie and not there to replace him. And yet, 3 days later, he comes out on French television, and when asked who's going to replace Van Persie, he says, well, we've already got Giroud and Podolski in to replace him. Which is it? Did we buy them to replace Van Persie, or did we buy them to work with Van Persie? You can't have it both ways. He's treating Arsenal fans like mugs, and it's annoying me. The second thing that I'm fuming about in this whole transfer saga is Van Persie himself. Now, his programme notes last year were saying all about how he loves the club, how it's a dream to be a captain of the club, and yet there he is, off he goes. His statement in the summer was horrendous, and to say so publicly I disagree with the ambition is just really inconsiderate. Do it behind closed doors, vent your frustrations. But 1, what right do you have to start saying about how the club should run? You don't. That's the manager and that's the board to decide. And 2, you can't talk about not having ambition and then say you want to leave because of the lack of ambition, but when ambition is shown in Cazorla, Podolski and Giroud, jog off to someone else at another club and have them not show that same ambition. Basically what you've said is the only way that you can show ambition is to buy me, which is incredibly egotistical and sums up why you're a mercenary. But also that statement, which was all about the lack of ambition, if it wasn't for that whole policy at the club of nurturing youth, you would have been on your last legs years ago and sent off to rot in some rubbish team that couldn't cope with the fact you've got so many injuries. You can't have it both ways, that you criticise the whole setup of the club, and yet it's that setup which has made you and not let you rot somewhere else. Thirdly, what is Ferguson up to? At the start of this transfer saga, he criticised Arsenal for releasing information that he had made a bid for Van Persie. At the time, he sat back and said, well, we like to keep everything behind closed doors and we like to make sure that we don't talk about something which might not happen. And yet, for the last 2 weeks, all we've had is Ferguson rattling off quote after quote about how he's getting agitated about Arsenal not selling in Van Persie. I'm sorry, but does he want the whole of the Emirates to just put a nice big red carpet out for him, lay on a nice glass of claret and say, here he is, Ferguson, just take him, that's fine. Arsenal obviously aren't going to make it easy for you, so to keep spouting rubbish about how Arsenal are not helping and not going through the process, and then talking to the press about everything, having said that you're not going to talk to the press about anything, is so hypocritical or senile. Probably senile, because if he thinks that the priority for them is Van Persie when they've got such a creaky old midfield and defence, then he's got another thing coming. So overall, although these 3 things have really agitated me, I'm kind of at a loss as to how I feel about the whole thing. Because Van Persie himself, I think, is a mercenary, and I just don't think you can criticise a club for not having ambition, and then when it shows ambition, still jump ship. I think that's wrong. But 24 million for someone with his injury record and 24 million for someone that's in his last year of contract, that's a really good deal from Arsenal. So although I'm angry at Arsenal for selling to a rival club, it's good business in a way, but is it ever good business to sell your top asset and your number 1 player from the season before and your club captain to a rival? Could that be good business? I don't know what to think, so put down in the comments what you think. Was it a good deal? Was it the right thing to do? I'm kind of siding now towards it was the right thing to do, but I'm definitely siding towards Van Persie being a horrible, horrible person. Make sure you subscribe at the top there. Make sure you comment about your opinions on what's annoyed you about this transfer saga and how we're going to deal with it as a club. And like if you like it, and thanks very much. A boom. Right, so we're outside Southampton Stadium, absolutely whacking it down, English summer, so let's get some views from Southampton and Arsenal fans, because I know nothing about Southampton.
South Coast Club, biggest club in Hampshire.